This week's Q&A is coming from an undisclosed location, but if you're following on Instagram, you might already know where I am. Before we start, I just want to say thank you to everyone who expressed their concern for my health and safety. It means a lot to me to know that you guys actually care, and you'll be happy to know that I slept 9 hours last night, and I just woke up from a 2-hour nap. So I'm definitely catching up on sleep this weekend. I have 9 Pokemon to evolve today. Abra is the only one that's going to be a new evolution, a new entry in the Pokédex. So I'm going to start at the end, and we'll work our way back to Abra. So Vulpix first. I already have one Ninetales with the ideal moveset, Ember and Fire Blast, and it has 80% IVs. This Vulpix has a little bit better IVs, so we'll see what happens with the moves. Ember, Fire Blast. And, well, its name is not Vulpix anymore. If you just delete the name and press OK, it resets to default, so real quick, you don't have to type it back in there. But that's cool. Ember, Fire Blast. The first question I want to answer is, do you think that the ability to change movesets will ever be implemented? I have lots of 90 plus IV mons with bad movesets. Transfer? I have quite a few with good IVs and bad movesets also, and I'm holding on to them in hopes that we do eventually get the ability to change movesets. I think it's something that needs to happen eventually down the line. It's going to make building your ideal Pokemon a possibility, and in my opinion that makes the game a lot more fun rather than just farming candies and evolving and trying over and over again and just relying on random chance to get what you need. I think if we could use Stardust, candies, or some other currency to change moves, that would be fine. You know, you'd still have to grind and farm to get candies and Stardust in order to pay the costs to change the moves, but I think a fun way, an interesting way that Niantic could do it is by creating a TM item. TM is an item that teaches a Pokemon moves in the original games, and if you could get TMs for each move at a pretty low drop rate from Pokestops, then, you know, every once in a while you'll pick up a TM for, say, Ember. And if you get, say, a Ninetales like I did, but it doesn't have Ember, you have that TM now for Ember, and you can use it to teach that Ninetales Ember instead of, what's Ninetales' other quick move? Instead of Feint Attack. To make it even more interesting, Niantic could stop limiting you to 2 quick moves and 3 charge moves per Pokemon, and make it so that TMs would work on multiple Pokemon, so that fire types who don't normally learn Ember now have the possibility to, if you have an Ember TM. That's just my idea. And again, I think that the ability to change movesets is something that will come in a future update. Next evolution. Another Staryu. And I already have one Starmie with the ideal moveset. Doesn't hurt to have more though. Water Gun Psychic. Isn't that what happened last time? That is not the ideal moveset. I want Water Gun Hydro Pump. Why do you think Niantic Labs won't accept new requests for Pokestops? I live in a town with just a few and want more. I think right now they're just too busy. They have a lot going on, and as I've said before, it's a relatively small company, only about 70 employees. So I think once things settle down, once they get everything stable, once the game's released globally, hopefully they'll open up submissions for Pokestops. It's something that they did for Ingress originally. That's how they collected all the data. All these Pokestops are user submitted. So I think if we just give them a little bit of time, eventually we will be able to request new Pokestops. Alright, now, a Pidgey. Right, not exciting, I know. But, as I've said before, Pidgeot can actually be a pretty good attacker. His name is still Pidgey. Let's keep going. What are the moves? Wing Attack, Hurricane, please. Steel Wing, Air Cutter. Bummer. It happens. What are you gonna do? Can't change your moves yet. You don't seem to ever power up. Why? I'm very picky about what I spend my Stardust on. So, here's one Pokemon that I have powered up. This is my 100% perfect IV Vaporeon. I chose to power this guy up because, one, he has 100% perfect IVs, and two, it was before the original moves rebalance, when Water Gun was so strong that it didn't matter what Vaporeon's second move was. So, at the time, this was a perfect Vaporeon. It had one of the highest damage per second moves in the game and 100% perfect IVs. So I look for good moves and good IVs before I start powering things up. And then, once I do have good moves and good IVs, beyond that, I still prioritize the Pokemon that are going to be useful in gyms. So let me just sort by CP right now. Here is a Vaporeon that I've started powering up recently, and this one has the ideal moveset currently, Water Gun Hydro Pump. Its IVs are not 100%, but it's still above 80, and this, I feel, is something worth investing in. Now this Rhydon, perfect IVs like the Vaporeon, but doesn't have the best moveset, so I've decided not to invest Stardust in this one. I do have this Rhydon, with a much more desirable moveset in my opinion, 2 ground-type moves, making it a good counter to Electric, Fire, Steel, Rock. But because those types of Pokemon aren't very common as gym defenders, this Rhydon doesn't have a whole lot of utility right now, so I haven't powered this one up either. There are certain things that if I do get them, I will power them up immediately. If I had a Victory Bell with Razor Leaf and Solar Beam, that's going to get powered up. If I had an Exeggutor with Zen Headbutt and Solar Beam, that would get powered up. But again, it comes down to 3 things: IVs, movesets, and relevance in the current meta. Next, I'm evolving a Paris, and I've said before, Parasect is actually surprisingly good if you get the right moveset. Earlier on I said Fury Cutter and Solar Beam was ideal, but Bug Bite is actually strictly better than Fury Cutter. More damage per second, more energy, and about the same animation time, so they're both really fast moves. Hopefully I get Bug Bite, Solar Beam on this. Bug Bite X Scissor. Well, that's still a good Bug-type moveset, and as I said recently in the first Counters video, a good Bug-type moveset is all you need to take down an Exeggutor. Do you think the buddy system will be implemented for evolving Pokemon for friendship, and will Pokemon holding items be a thing? For those who don't know, in the main series games, there are some Pokemon who evolve by friendship level, and that just kind of increases as you spend time with the Pokemon. So a lot of people thought when the buddy system was implemented, this could be a way of generating friendship. The buddy system does track your total distance with a Pokemon that you've walked, and that stays consistent even when you switch out and switch back to that Pokemon. So that kind of implies that there might be some benefit to walking a long distance with Pokemon. And friendship was introduced in 2nd generation with the baby Pokemon, so it's quite possible that Niantic could use a similar system for evolving those. But honestly, right now, I don't see Niantic straying from the candy system, at least not yet. When 2nd generation comes out, things might be different, but right now, I don't see Niantic straying from the candy system. As for holding items, in the main series games, there are items that you can give to Pokemon that benefit them in some way. Berries, Pokemon could use berries to heal themselves in battle, or there are items that boost certain stats, and I think that's something that could happen, again, eventually. As we know, Niantic has a lot planned for this game, and they've said that they've only scratched the surface of gameplay that they want to create. So both of these things, friendship and hold items, are things that could be coming in the future. Alright, I'm going to evolve this Meowth next. Scratch, Play Rough is Persian's best moveset. Feint Attack, Power Gem is probably one of the worst. Yeah. 2nd worst. Persian's not really relevant in the current metagame anyway. Sorry, cat. Why did you go for Team Instinct, and do you think there will ever be an option to change your team? I don't think a changing teams option is likely, but if enough people ask about it, then maybe, who knows. Niantic has listened to us in the past, so if that's something that enough people want to do, they might make a way for that to happen. They did add a change nickname option, so anything's possible there. As for why I chose Team Instinct, 2 reasons. One, I knew it would be the underdog team, and for some reason I always like rooting for the underdog. And 2, back before the game was launched, before we knew a whole lot about it, Niantic had just revealed that teams would be a part of it, and they had shown red and blue teams, but nobody knew that there was going to be a third team. And Juan and I, here on Trainer Tips, were the first to discover and report the existence of a third team. We saw a tiny sliver of what looked like a yellow gym in the screenshot where they showed a red and blue gym. And once that was confirmed, I knew I had to be on Team Instinct, or the yellow team, because we were the first to discover its existence outside of Niantic. Alright, Krabby. Kingler is another Pokemon who just gets poor movesets. So, like Persian, not really relevant in the current metagame. Even its best moveset, which is Metal Claw and, Fury Cutter? Even its best moveset, it really has no good uses in the game. See, Mudshot, Water Pulse. What am I supposed to do with that? Water Pulse has really bad DPS. Mudshot doesn't benefit from stab. I could use this to beat fire Pokemon, but there are so many better options. So this is something that I think needs to be addressed in the future. One, it could happen with TMs if you have the option to teach Pokemon moves that they don't naturally learn. And 2, it could be accomplished by just giving Pokemon better moves, or at least thinking more about what moves that a Pokemon should have, what situations those moves are going to be used in, and designing each Pokemon in a way that they actually have a purpose. Right now, Kingler, with its best moveset, Fury Cutter, and Metal Claw, doesn't really counter anything. It's not a great defender. It's just kind of out there with no real purpose. Weren't nests supposed to change today? Mine are still the same. Well, nests weren't supposed to change. It was projected or predicted that they would based on the past 2 changes. Those changes both happened either 23 or 24 days apart, so a lot of people assumed that the next change would come after 23 or 24 days. Obviously that didn't happen, and that just goes to show that we don't know enough about the game to really make these accurate predictions. And when it comes down to it, Niantic could really just change things whenever they want. I think maybe if things were originally planned to change on a schedule, once we figured it out, Niantic decided they didn't want it to be that predictable. So if nests do change again, it could come later. They might not change again, but I really think that nests will continue to change, maybe just not at the same cycle. I have another decent Eevee to evolve, and, Jolteon is actually probably the worst of the 3 evolutions currently, but it's the only one I haven't used the nickname trick for yet, so I do want to have a decent Jolteon. Now I'm going to wait a second. Oh shoot, he goes down the list. Anyway, I'm going to wait a second on that, and I'm going to evolve the Doduo instead, because I want to make sure that nickname gets set and goes through so that the server knows that that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to evolve the Doduo right now. Steelwing, Aerial Ace. Dodrio, just like Kingler, doesn't really have a place in the metagame, doesn't have any coherent movesets really. Neither of its quick moves benefit from stab. Its charge moves have pretty poor DPS. So again, this is a Pokemon without a whole lot of purpose right now. And, all Pokemon aren't meant to be equal in terms of power, but I think that every Pokemon should have some use. And right now, Dodrio is really hard to use. What would you recommend as a buddy? The truth is, you can make any Pokemon your buddy. Some people will choose their favorite Pokemon, but my personal recommendation is to choose Pokemon that you need candies for. I needed just a couple more candies for Abra, which I'm going to be evolving in a second, so I chose Abra as my buddy, because I only needed to walk a few kilometers to get enough candies to evolve it. So really my recommendation is, whichever Pokemon you want to evolve the most, make that your buddy. Earn candies for it as you're playing the game so that you don't have to rely on trying to go out and find it in the wild. And the buddy system is really good to earn candies for rare Pokemon. Pokemon like Snorlax. Snorlax is very powerful, and it's something that you're going to want to invest Stardust and candy in. But because it's so rare, it's hard to come across Snorlax candy. So by making Snorlax your buddy, you're going to be generating Snorlax candy as you play the game. So my recommendation, 1, Pokemon that you want to evolve, 2, rare Pokemon that are hard to find candies for. Alright, let's go find that Eevee. Sparky. There he is. What's the CP? What are the moves? 13, 17, Thundershock, Thunderbolt. I'm okay with that. That's going to be my highest Jolteon so far. I think my next highest is 1100, maybe 1200. Thundershock, Thunderbolt is the second best moveset, but there are times when 2-bar charge moves are better than 1-bar charge moves. With Thunder, for example, if you fill up that bar, but then wait for the enemy Pokemon to use its charge move before you use yours, there's a few attacks that you're going to be using where it's not actually charging any energy because your bar is already full. So in that way, it's kind of a waste of energy, and you don't have that problem as much with 2-bar moves because if you fill up that first bar and wait, you're still going to be filling up the second bar while you're waiting. So again, the DPS is higher on Thunder, but there are some applications that make 2-bar charge moves better in certain situations. Why is it Pokemon that are in nests are always decent or need more improvement? Basically, why do nest Pokemon have low IVs? And I think the reason for that is that nests were meant as a way of farming candies, farming Pokemon, so that you can get a lot of candies for that species. They're not meant to be a place where you can go and catch a strong one. I think for that, you need to rely more on eggs. And this is another reason that I think nests will change again in the future, even though they didn't change as we predicted them to, because they're, again, like I said, they're meant to be a way for you to farm candies, and as they cycle, that gives players in a certain area an opportunity to farm candies for a different species of Pokemon every few weeks. So that just gives people who can't travel another way of getting candies for Pokemon that they might not normally find. Here's the last evolution, the one that I've been waiting a long time for. I'm just going to rename him now, and let's get started. I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I'm kind of because, Alakazam is not great. It's kind of been my mission to come up with ways to make Alakazam and other Pokemon stronger, better in Pokemon Go. So that's something I'm going to continue working on, because I am hopeful that it will happen eventually. There he is. New entry. Confusion Psychic. Confusion Psychic is actually the 4th moveset in terms of damage per second. Psycho Cut is just so much stronger than Confusion that all 3 Psycho Cut movesets are better than this. But I'm okay with it. I mean, Alakazam, look at that. 1000 CP. It's not a strong Pokemon by any means right now. But I'm going to hold on to him, obviously, in hopes that eventually he will get buffed in some way so that he is a little bit stronger. I believe in you. That's it for evolutions, but I want to answer one more question. Why is Anthony Bourdain so important to you? Anthony Bourdain is sort of a role model and inspiration to me in some ways, and I first became aware of his work through a Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking to David Cho, and they were talking about Anthony Bourdain with Parts Unknown being one of the few people who can get away with almost whatever he wants with his show. And I was curious at that point, so I watched it, and I mean, they were right. He goes wherever he wants, he does what he wants, he talks about what he wants. And the fascinating thing to me is that, yeah, it's a food show, but he goes to these countries. He goes to places like Congo, like Libya, places that are engulfed in conflict, and makes you really aware and care about what's going on in those countries through talking about food, but also through interviewing people and talking to people and just sharing what's going on in those places. So that's something I've tried to sort of emulate in my own way on this channel. You guys know I travel a bit, I like to go to new places, and I like to make sure that I show you that place and share that experience with you, because I think that's really important. You know, this channel has always been about more than just Pokemon Go. It's about using Pokemon Go to get out in the world as it was intended, and to go see new things and experience new things. And that's just something that I want to share with you guys. And to go back to the whole doing whatever he wants with this show thing, that's a big deal, because with network TV, there are a lot of people telling you what you can and can't do. You have the network, you have producers saying, you can't show this, you can't talk about that because it's gonna conflict with our sponsors, whatever. And that's one of the reasons that I like YouTube so much, is because there's no one there doing that. There's no one controlling my content or overseeing what I'm doing and saying, oh, don't show that image because that's gonna make people angry, or don't show that image because that's gonna make people sad. There's no one telling me what I can and can't do. I'm free here to express what I feel and share my message in a mostly unadulterated way. But anyway, that's it for this Q&A, that's it for these evolutions. I have a lot of things that I'm getting really close to being able to evolve. Machop all the way to Machamp is one of them. There are a few others that I'm really close to, so next week should be another interesting one. I'm going to try to hit up some nests, some starter Pokemon nests. I haven't been to a Squirtle or Charmander nest yet, so I'd like to collect some more candies for those. And with the buddy system, I'm also starting to accumulate candies for Pokemon that I don't see very frequently. So there should be some exciting evolutions coming up in the next week. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow after I get some sleep. Some more sleep. A lot of sleep. Bye. So the first question I want to answer is, have you got any info on the new tracker trial, and when do you think they'll release the update? Well, since I said I'm here in San Francisco, this is where they are beta testing that new tracker. So I can show you exactly what it looks like. You see there's sightings down below like you're used to, and nearby, which shows Pokemon that are located close to Pokestops.